Joining me now from Southern California, Vice President of the Election Integrity Project California and Daily Ledger contributor Ruth Weiss. Ruth, speaking of New Jersey, it just so happens out of the Garden State there was a little election malfeasance going on. This out of Breitbart. Headline: New Jersey Democrats charged with mail-in voter fraud. 2 Peterson, New Jersey councilmen and 2 men linked to a councilman's campaign have been charged with election fraud, mail-in voting fraud, and illegal possession of mail-in ballots. What could go wrong? They tell us that this is a more secure system. It's nonsense.
Well, stories like this do not line up with the mantra, which is there's no voter fraud, that voting by mail doesn't lead to voter fraud, doesn't lead to corruption, doesn't lead to mistakes and error. And so they don't like stories like this that belie that. And the stories are out there, and they can continue that mantra as long as they want to, but it doesn't make it more true. We do have evidence, absolute evidence, if people just simply want to look at it instead of bury it, that voting by mail is a difficult way to get a fair and honest election.
Not just New Jersey. Speaking of evidence, here's more evidence. This is out of Michigan this time. It is a woman who worked as the Michigan city clerk, a 38-year-old registered Democrat. She's now accused of altering 193 absentee ballots. Now, at a local election, 193 absentee ballots can swing. Certainly could be enough, depending on how large, the election and the number of ballots is. But the bottom line is, 1 is too many. 193 is very, very scary. But it seems to me that this is a bit of a pretext to me, that this kind of sets up a dangling Chad situation that we saw in 2000 with Al Gore, that we're going to have to wait, and we're going to have to wait and wait for possibly the presidential election on down for some of these mail-in, because we know, Ruth, that some of these states will accept these ballots after Election Day. They could be postmarked, I don't know, it's up to the individual states, right? It has to be Election Day, it could be after. Who knows how they're going to manipulate. Bottom line is, this is going to not only delay the results, but it sets up court challenges to me.
Well, that's an interesting way to look at it, and I'm sure that's a perspective that's going to come true. Every state makes its own rules and its own laws about how to accept ballots and when to accept ballots. California is going to accept them up to 20 days late, which is just absolutely monumentally horrific.
20 days. 20
yes,
days after
20
the election.
Days, yes, under the pretext that somehow the COVID-19 difficulty is going to delay the mail by that much. Which
it's an amazing virus, isn't it? It affects balloting now, and it affects delivery of the mail.
And mail trucks and all kinds of things. That's pretty crazy.
But there's something else nefarious going on in California, because you obviously keep a close eye on what's going on in California, and that is the governor. Not only is he crushing individual liberty and rights with the excuse of COVID-19, but now he's got this scheme to have a special election that's going to run concurrent with the general election. Can you explain that one to me?
There are a couple of ballot initiatives. They're actually constitutional amendments that the legislature wanted to be on the ballot for this November, and they missed the deadline to get those qualified for the ballot. So they rush passed another bill deciding to have a special election that would be concurrent with the November election, but it extended that deadline so that they had a few more days to get their T's crossed and their I's dotted and get those 2 ballot measures onto the ballot.
Any way to manipulate the system in California.
Yes,
and
ridiculous.
your group is constantly sounding the alarm bells in California, and especially regarding vote by mail plus ballot harvesting. And this headline caught my eye. It says, will hundreds of thousands of vote by mail ballots go to Californians who have died or moved? Election experts, so-called, are skeptical. But you're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of a 500,000. Who knows exactly how many extra, I'll call them extra or bogus, ballots will be mailed out? You really have no clue, do you?
No, you really don't. Those statistics are from our data team, and they come from the voter rolls that we obtained from the Secretary of State in April. Now, granted, they could have done some voter roll maintenance between then and now, but the fact is the majority of those people whom we're saying are going to receive a ballot even though they're deceased or somehow don't live in California anymore, most of them have been on the voter rolls and completely inactive, doing absolutely nothing for a minimum of 12 years, and many of them for decades, up to 60 years. So unless they come out of a coma and suddenly vote in this election, yes, they will have a ballot sent to their last known address, and that leaves things wide open.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.